Hey, welcome to the Social 333 podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bentley. Today, my guest is Damon Flowers. Damon, welcome to the show.
Hey, appreciate you having me on, Chris.
Awesome. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
Yeah, so serial entrepreneur the last 23 years or so. Knew I'd be an entrepreneur when I got fired from my first job, so that was always exciting. For me, during that time, kind of became a student of business, learning marketing, learning sales, learning finance, and all of it. But it really kind of clicked around 2015 or so, where I ended up taking a training and coaching company to 12 million, and then ended up taking a e-commerce company from 3.5 to 30 million in 2 years. Wow. And so really kind of feel like I cracked open sort of the inner guts of how to structure and make business work. And so that's what I do today. I launched a new brand about a year ago called Modern Operators and help other business owners kind of get out of their own way and figure out how do we scale predictably in this sort of weird, uncertain, rapidly advancing culture that we all live in.
I saw this thing that you sent me, and I thought it was really interesting. Discipline isn't about forcing yourself to do hard things. It's about bringing yourself into such deep alignment that discipline stops being a burden and becomes a gift. I see you're into meditation and spiritual work, so tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so for me in the early days, I would force myself to do things I really didn't want to do, and I'll be honest. In the beginning, I had some mental health issues about just working 80 to 100 hours a week and overextending myself and hitting a wall. And so, ultimately, taking a step back and asking the question: why are some things easy for some people and some things are hard? Why are some things easy and hard for me? And what I really began to realize was that my inner programming was not set up to take the actions that I wanted to take. And I had a choice. If basically I could exhaust my willpower trying to force myself to do things that I knew I needed to do in business, or I could figure out a better way. And turns out the better way is to understand what's going on inside and get that into alignment with the action we want to take, so it starts to become effortless. We want to take the sales calls. We want to speak. We want to do whatever we need to do versus fighting ourselves.
I know for myself, and I'm just speaking for myself, is that, and my sister does the same thing actually. It'll be a situation where I'm actually better at it and she's worse at it, but not to throw her under the bus. But one thing that I do a lot of is that, and it's a discipline thing, but it'll be a situation where I have to do something and I know I have to do it, and I would much rather find 5 other things better to do. And I'm not talking about like go out to the bar or go chase a girl or anything like that. I mean, I'm talking about like just business-wise. So like I know I have to do something that's going to take up a lot of my time, and it's going to suck, and it's going to be repetitive. And, I might have to, I don't drink, so like I might have to go pound a Red Bull or like do some jumping jacks or do some burpees or, go walk around outside for a while and come back. To get my mind to be able to be like, all right, let's just, knock it out versus, and I've been at the real estate game for almost 23 years, 23 years in September of this year. You get to a certain point where you're just like, geez, like I have to do that again. Right. And then you really don't want to do it, but you do it. It just, maybe for me, it takes me a little while. My sister, on the other hand, it'll be like, she'll drag it out till like the last hour. I mean, it might be like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. She'll do it. Not that she's doing anything exciting, but she'll just do stuff to keep her mind to not have to do that. Right. So it's like, I would say it's a discipline thing after a certain amount of years, or a lack of excitement for doing the same thing over and over again. And you're like, oh geez, now I got to do like, to be honest, like I'm dreading going home because I have to go and like put together a repair list for a home that we got under contract. And I know it's going to take me at least an hour, and I got to send it off. And it's like tomorrow's the last day. So I have some time, and I'm not dragging my feet at any point, but I have a pretty busy day today. But at the same time, I'm like, oh God, I got to do that. Right. For somebody like that, I'm sure there's business owners out there that are the same way. I don't know if you were at some point, but you get to the point where you've been doing the same thing over and over again, and you kind of dread the hard work or the time consuming work versus you really enjoy the work that is fulfilling. or for me, it's like the creative side of stuff. What do you recommend for, business owners that are like that, or people that are leaders, that have, some difficult tasks that they just don't want to do and they drag their feet a little bit?
Yeah. So let's maybe kind of hit that from a couple of angles.
Okay.
One is that I do think for leaders, for founders, for business owners, it's really important to understand, what are you world class at? Like, are you world class at selling or negotiating? Well, if you are, do more of that, get better at it, do other things less often, bring other people in to fill around you where you're not good, right? And we want to keep that in mind. Obviously, in the beginning in our business, we've got to wear lots of hats.
Right.
We've got to do lots of things, but you want to stay true to what you're really, really gifted at. So that's number one. Number two, along the way, it really helps to get into alignment with those actions in a way that doesn't take a lot of energy, especially if we consider yourself a high performer, or if you want to be a high performer. Think of it, you've got an amount of energy you wake up with in the morning, and the more you are burning willpower to force yourself to do things, the faster that willpower is diminishing. It's almost like a cell phone battery, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's if you're out and roaming in some rural area and you're watching videos and making lots of calls, man, that battery is going down really fast. And if by 3 or 4 in the afternoon it's gone, well, what are you going to do for the rest of the day? You need that energy. So we start to maybe think about asking questions. I love to encourage entrepreneurs to ask questions, carving out time to say, okay, when I think back over the course of the day or the course of the week, what took me out? What took a lot more time than it should have, right? Where did I fight myself? And starting to become aware of those areas. And then there's some deeper questions to understand, why is that? And we can try to fix the surface level things, but if we fix something surface level like procrastination, sure, it'll go away for a week or 2 or 3, but oftentimes what does it do? It just comes back until we start to fix the source of it. But the cool thing is once we fix the source of it, now the programming starts to write itself to protect the new programming that you've put in place. And that programming around going to the gym or eating healthy food or making those calls or whatever it happens to be. So it's a balance and doesn't happen overnight. But those would be kind of my 2 perspectives. Really identify what you're good at, and then learn how to ask questions, look at your energy, and free up to be in more in alignment with that person that you want to be.
One of the things that I've been doing is I'll set a reward for whatever it is that I have to do, right? So I'll be like, okay, and I mean, it's very simple stuff. I mean, it'll be like, okay, well, I need to do this task and it sucks, but once I'm done with the task, then I'm going to go eat, you know, chicken wings or whatever, right? I'll reward myself by doing whatever, or I'll say, this deal is really difficult. Like I've been, losing sleep over this deal. People have been arguing back and forth over small stuff. As soon as I'm done with this deal, then I'm gonna do whatever. Whatever makes me happy that particular day, right?
Yeah.
Some small stuff is like that's what's helped me through a lot of that stuff. And then for me is that I'll find something in the business that I've been overlooking for a while that I just one day get up and I'm like, all right, like I've let this go for too long. And I think it's a Tony Robbins thing that I learned. And it's like you've let something go for so long that now like you just become irritated that it is what it is. And then you just take action and you take like long term action to get, that thing resolved. And that's what I've also done a lot of too.
Yeah. Good tools. I mean, it's really about learning what tools work for you. There's so many tools out there, right? Changing perspective, rewarding yourself, putting consequences in place. I know in the early days, I used to do things like, have you ever heard of a reverse reward? So it's where like, I'll give you an example. I really want to do this thing, but I'm fighting myself to get it done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a check that's a large amount of money, and then I'm going to put it in an envelope to send to a charity that I would never in a million years.
I heard
fund,
that.
right? And I'm going to
Yeah.
give that to my friend. And if I don't do this, then you're to send this $1,000, $10,000, whatever it is, off to this, major charity. Again, like, the American Nazi Party or something like that, right? But there's all kinds of tools. The benefit is like, it's really in figuring out what works best for you and then learning to kind of stick with that.
One of the guests that I just saw is a snippet, a reel, and he was on the show and he hates wearing jeans. So he'll have his assistant, like whenever he's supposed to do something and puts it off and doesn't do it, his assistant's job is to order jeans for him. And
Mm,
like he'll get a package of jeans and he'll be like, crap, like I know I was supposed to do that. And like he'll see the charge on his credit card
yeah.
and he'll be like, crap, like, and then after a while, like if he's dragging his feet too long, he's got like packages at his door of jeans and he's just like, he hates jeans, it's a stupid ploy, but like it works for him.
Yeah.
And to your statement earlier, it just really depends on what works for you. Cause I know a lot of stuff that works for me probably isn't going to work for my sister, for example. Like she's not going to go out of her office and start doing burpees until she gets the deal done, or, her taking an hour 45-minute walk to clear her head to like be able to be like, all right, now that I suffered 8,000 steps, now I'm gonna go ahead and like start working. um so it works differently for a lot of other people. And I think the biggest thing is just kind of going back to what you said earlier, and when you first started, is just knowing more about yourself and just being more like in tune with who you are.
Yeah. It's wild to think about that the writing, the phrase on the Temple of Delphi, thousands, hundreds, was it several thousand years ago, was to know thyself, right? It's kind of a core tenet of how to grow.
What kind of roadblocks do you see for founders that are trying to grow? Like for myself, I always have roadblocks in terms of just wearing a lot of hats. And then, you have to, Alex Ramosi was talking about this. I'm a big student of his. And it just, he'll talk about how, it's painful to bring a whole bunch of people in and then you do interviews and then you hire one or two, however many people you need. And then you try to teach them how to do it. And now we have AI, so you can create like your own, operations manual. But then, uh, you spend a lot of time doing that. But then at the end of the day, if you don't take joy from it, you're looking at it as a time expense or like a money loss versus when you should be looking at it as like, finally, I get this, like, to delegate this thing that I don't like doing to somebody else, or I like doing it, but it's too much now. And then now this person can do it. Now I'm freed up to like really do what I really want to do or what I'm really good at. That's one of my biggest roadblocks. But I know there's a lot of like small entrepreneur or small business owners, entrepreneurs just like myself that run into that where they're just like, well, like I'm kind of capped at the knees because we don't have enough money coming in to support that. Or you bring somebody in, like for me, it's the busy season for real estate. So you bring somebody in to make my calls while I'm out selling. There's just a lot of different things that you can do. But what are some of the roadblocks that you've seen when you get into these bigger corporations that are doing $2 to $30 million? Like, what are you kind of seeing? Is it like a delegation of duties? Is it leadership or lack of leadership? Like, what do you see?
Yeah. And I will say it's changing. So the problems that founders faced even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, are actually different than they are today. And the intensity of problems is getting more severe today. So we talk with a lot of prospects, a lot of clients who are overwhelmed. They're the glue that holds their business together. They're pulled in way too many directions. They're having trouble delegating to people who are kind of checked out and not really carrying the level of quality in their business that they would like to see. They are now getting pulled back into working more hours than they were before. They're less confident about where their business is headed, where the markets are headed. Society in general is a lot more uncertain. There's a lot more disruption. I know business owners who are checking out now with their staff, and their staff's getting concerned and worried. Their staff's starting to check out. So there's a lot of problems I think that founders are experiencing today. And the reason I believe that that's happening is because we're in a very interesting time. So if we think back over the last 20 or 30 years, we've gone from a time where in business, we've started outsourcing parts of our business to other companies and other tools. So in 99, for instance, Salesforce launched. And over time, most companies have outsourced their sales to a CRM tool. And then we've outsourced project management and task management to a tool like Asana or Trello or something. And then we've outsourced our customer support to Zendesk or Freshdesk or some other tool. And nowadays, businesses and business owners are running a ton of different tools: Slack for communication, right? And Stripe for merchant processing, and QuickBooks for financial reporting. And what ends up happening is the founder then becomes the glue that's trying to hold all these pieces together. They're the conduit for answering questions and handling this one off and that one off, and staff coming to say, well, how do we handle this? And what do you mean to do here, et cetera. And now, as society is rapidly changing with AI, that problem is getting even worse and worse. And so we're at this crossroads where the business models that have been built for the last several years are not able to keep pace with the innovation and the change that's happening today. So most business owners are getting really kind of pulled apart. I've been at 2 private dinners recently with very successful entrepreneurs, and I will tell you, everybody is feeling this low-grade tension, this low-grade stress about where are things headed. You know, what do I do in my business? How do I make decisions? But he feels very stressed about moving forward faster, making faster decisions. But we can't with the business model of the past. We've got to change and look at how can we build a foundation that allows us to get back in flow with the pace of life, the pace of change, so that we can make faster decisions and we can pivot faster, right? And as the economy shifts or tariffs happen, et cetera, we can now start to shift our business accordingly and not overwhelm everybody in the process.
You said some interesting stuff, and I was sitting here thinking about it. I think, and I speak for myself on this, and then you can back me up on it. So for myself, you get to a certain point of business ownership where, and I'm sure a lot of leaders run into this, and I have a guest come on the show and talk about this, where you just end up being the person that has to solve all the fires, right? And that's the leader of the company, and you lose a lot of the joy of whatever you're doing, selling or whatever it is that your business is. And you end up just having to deal with problems. Like, you wake up with problems, you go to bed with problems. And I remember this when I was doing mortgages, and I was originating a lot of mortgages. I had a team. So for you guys that don't know, when you do mortgages, you have the realtor and you have the selling agent, and then in between you have the underwriter, right? So you're like working with the underwriter to get the loan approved, and you got one person yelling at you, that's the buyer's agent, and you got the other person, the seller's agent, yelling at you. And in between you and the underwriter, you're yelling at the underwriter to hurry up and like get the thing approved so we go close, right? And now it's like a daily thing. And that was the thing that it would make me like lose all my hair. It would just be like that. And I couldn't sleep sometimes because it would just be constant calling or constant emails. When is this thing going to close? Now we have to do this form, or like this isn't getting approved, or that. And it was like, so, if it was just a one deal, that's fine. But if you're working on 30 to 100 deals, it's a lot of problems, right? So that was kind of what happened. And you get to the point as a business owner where you're like, you know what, like, maybe I don't want to scale. As cool as scaling sounds, maybe I just want to be like a 1 to 4 person shop and just be like a small person, make my money, invest it well, go about my life, and I don't have to worry about scaling and having, all these recruiting and all these trainings. I could just be a small man shop and just go about my business. And there's like that crossroad, because I recently came across it. And so there's a crossroad, and you're like, well, you know what? Like, I've been doing okay, and like I continue to be doing okay. So I can continue rowing in my boat, or I could take on even more problems and deal with more stuff and try to scale it to a different level. And I think a lot of people run into that same problem where they're like, you know what? Like, I was just happy being a small man shop or a small woman shop, and that's fine. Now that I want to scale, I got all these different problems and all these different headaches, and maybe I don't want all those different headaches. Do you run into a lot of that stuff, like that
Yeah.
crossroads where you're like, I could scale or I could not scale?
Yeah, yeah. So, I think most business owners look at the fact that they have one gas pedal in the car, and that gas pedal is growth, right? I'm either growing or I'm not. But the truth is, there are other steps that need to be in place with a business before a business is really ready to scale and grow. So, if we unpack that for just a moment, and this is really important for today's businesses thinking about, well, if I live in a world that's a lot of disconnected, siloed tools that don't talk to each other, and that's why my staff is coming to me all the time, and I'm the connection or the glue that's trying to hold everything together, then yeah, why would I grow? Because growing means more people coming to me, more problems, more fires, et cetera. So the way to rethink this is, okay, let's put growth out in front. Before that, though, we need to build a foundation. We need to build an operational engine that works with or without you. And that operational engine is organized in such a way where you, as the leader or your leadership team, all the way down through all the staff in your company, know where we're going. What are we focused on? What do we do? Who do we serve? All of those things. And your staff now starts to understand, how would Chris make a decision here, right? What would Chris do? They can now start to work autonomously. Now, this takes time, of course, but where you're no longer the glue, and now you're beginning to free up to focus on more strategy. So foundation is very, very important. We always want to start there. The next piece is optimizing. So optimizing is where we take a look at the business and we say, okay, we can now put gas in the car. The car has an engine. It's got brakes and it's got gas. What does it need next? Well, it needs a dashboard. It needs a dashboard to tell us, when are we running low on gas? Is the engine getting ready to overheat, right? We want to know those things before it happens. Because running out of gas, in the middle of the deserts, in Nevada or whatever is not cool, right? So we start to build the dashboard. What do I need to be alerted about in my business, right? And then once that is optimized, then we can move to the next phase, which is scale. Scale and growth really means that I could dump money, customers, partners, et cetera, into my business and know that all the facets of my business are going to continue to run well. Marketing, sales is going to run really well, and fulfillment, customer support, right, is going to run really well. My finances can support it. All of it works in unison together. And we start to make that shift. Now business doesn't become scary or something to kind of, I can't figure this out. It starts to become fun again. And we
Mm.
start to become confident about, okay, now I know predictably, if I do this, this is going to happen. If I go left, this is going to happen. And now we can start to, again, increase our confidence, and we can start to build a business that's sustainable. It's durable over a longer time.
What I've noticed, and Alex Ramosi would probably laugh at me, but is that it takes years, at least it has for me, to get that foundation. Like I can buy all the software, I can teach it to everybody, I can tell everybody this is how we do it. I can give people scripts, I can tell them these are all the leads. I can hire people, but the lineage and the connectivity all the way through takes years. At least for me, that takes years. And it's been a wild journey. And I can see it because now I don't have to get into the very minutia of stuff. Now it's more of, hey, like I just want to check in, let you know that we got the home inspection and everything came out good. I'm writing it up now. I'm going to send it to you shortly. Versus me being like, okay, let's set up a Zoom, let's look at everything, let's get it going. And now it's just like they just got running with it. And it's a great thing to see. It's
Yeah.
wild. And you're like, yes, growth. So then you're like, okay, well, if I had done this with a handful of people, now I know I could do it with more people if I have a better structure. And you continue building on the structure. Am I right or wrong?
Absolutely right. And what's cool is that the model that I'm sort of circling around that really works today is an operating system. It's an operating system for a company that has a hub and spoke model to it. And it is built to be organized and flow and structured very well for humans, but it also works incredibly well with AI. And so as we start to think about that OS, what's cool nowadays is we can actually, through our company operating system that my company produces, we have now built in our first principles, our playbooks, our templates, our way of thinking into the OS. So the OS can now start to coach the business owner and coach the founder as to where they're at, where they want to go, and helping them along the journey to get there.
Hmm.
So if we think back like, 10, 15, 20 years ago, a company that did what we did, they'd be a management consulting company. They'd hire a bunch of consultants, they'd pay them a bunch of money, but they could really only work with so many clients at a time because working one-on-one and, meeting and talking and unpacking things and teaching and mentoring, leadership and staff and all that takes time.
Right.
Today, with AI, though, we can take decades of learning around what it takes to build a company, grow and scale a company, optimize a company, taking on the right changes, the right actions at the right time in the right order. And we can build that into an OS that now starts to, again, mentor and guide and coach a business team along the way. Like, hey, listen, I know you want to go here. We should probably address this because this is going to be a major problem. Let's focus here next. So that's what's exciting for me is the unlock to now start working with thousands of companies and also at a much lower scale. So, management consulting companies would normally charge $100,000, let's say. We can do that for a fraction of that money and provide a better service.
Wow. Jeff, Damon, if someone was interested, wanted to find you on the internet, maybe ask you some questions like me, ask you a lot of business questions, where would they find you?
Yeah. So the best thing to do is to go to modernoperators.com for our website. We've also created an advisor that you can go and interact with 24/7, ask questions, and really help to understand what's holding your business back. Where are you stuck? What would we suggest as next steps? And to check out that advisor, just go to advisor.modernoperators.com.
Damon, I appreciate you being on the show. Thanks for driving up.
Great. Oh, thanks, Chris. Enjoyed
Awesome.
being here.
Awesome.